Are you going to live by principle or preference? This is Brian Cain with the Mental Performance Daily Podcast, and today we're continuing our little mini seminar on the MVP process so that you can dominate your goals in quarter one of 2023. In today's episode, especially dedicated to the UFC world champion Vitor the Phenom Belfort. It was May 2015, UFC 187, Vitor Belfort against Chris Weidman for the UFC middleweight championship. And I remember sitting with Vitor the day before the fight as he was cutting weight, and I asked him, I said, "Champ, what do you know now that you wish you knew when you won your first UFC title almost 20 years before?" And he said, "Brian, the biggest thing I wish that the younger Vitor knew was that a boy lives out of principle. A boy lives out of preference, a man lives out of principle." So I want you to think about this for today's lesson. And I want you to work on this in your MVP process, which hopefully you've downloaded by now. But if you're just picking us up today for the first time, you're in the middle of our little mini seminar on the MVP process, the number one exercise I do with all of my clients so that they can dominate quarter one of 2023. You can click on the link below and get the template to follow along. Is choose to intentionally live out of principle, not preference. Preference, you do what you feel like doing in the moment. Now, that doesn't always get you in trouble, but it definitely isn't the path that we want to follow to live with intention, right? Sometimes our preference is I feel like going for a run. Great. Sometimes our preference is I want to sit with my family and watch TV. Great. But let's say 80% of your decision making should be based off of principle. Principle. Who do I want to be? Principle. When I'm the best version of me and I'm stacking together great days, how am I living? How am I coming across? How are you showing up? Now, a lot of times when I ask this question to people, they can kind of get lost and they think, well, maybe I need to climb to the top of Camelback Mountain or the Himalayas, and I need to do this spiritual retreat to find out what my core principles are. And I'm going to encourage you to just decide. Realize it's the start that stops most people. And if you're going to start living a principle-centered life, which Dr. Stephen Covey talks about as the 8th habit, what would that be for you? For me and my team and my family, we have chosen apples. And if you see on my social media, you see somewhere I have 3 green apples. What does that represent? That represents accountability, present, process, love, energy, and service. And then I've worked to define those. And again, if you click on the link in the show notes below, go to our MVP process template, you can see exactly how I've given a definition to the words apples: accountability, present, process, love, energy, and service. So what are your core principles? Maybe you're a member of a team that I'm doing team consulting with, and we've created this MVP process for your team, your organization. But what is it for you personally? Because I believe personal development precedes professional development, meaning you're going to live out of a set of principles for you first before you can accept the core principles of your team. And I'll use TCU baseball as an example. Back somewhere around 2010, we clarified with their staff and their players that the core principles of the TCU baseball organization were going to be selfless, excellence, and energy. And still to this day in 2023, if you go into their complex, if you go into their team meeting room, if you look at their uniform, you'll see stitched into their uniforms as well as everywhere around their complex, selfless, excellence, and energy. So whether it was with their head coach, Jim Schlossnagle, or their current head coach, Kirk Saarloos, they have committed to living the core principles of selfless, excellence, and energy. My question for you is, what are the core principles that you are living your life by? So let's make sure you download the MVP process template below, and let's start to live out of principle, not preference. And I know you're going to probably ask me the question, how many principles should I have? That's for you to decide. Let's start with 1 to 5 core principles. That's how you want to show up every day in 2023, starting with quarter one in the next 90 days. Let's get it.
Thanks for checking out Mental Performance Daily with Brian Cain, an Ironclad original. If you like the show, be sure to leave us a rating, review, and comment. We'll see you tomorrow.